Module 5 on development, personality, and social psychology. In this module, we're covering 3 chapters out of the textbook. Chapter 9 on human growth and development, Chapter 11 on personality, and Chapter 12 on social psychology. From our section on development, I'd like you to focus on not just go through the section on physical development, where babies come from and sperm and egg unite, and understand the periods of the developing fetus, how a zygote forms an embryo, and an embryo becomes a fetus, and a fetus develops through the 3 trimesters of physical development. And then focus on how we change physically and cognitively over the lifespan, but also pay special attention in this chapter beyond the physical and cognitive development to pay attention to the theories of development. If you go on in psychology and take Psych 231, developmental psych, you will spend a lot of time going over the theories of development, and so use our time in this class to familiarize yourself with those theories. So I usually focus in class on 4 main theories of development. I usually talk primarily about 1 theory of cognitive development, although you might want to pay special attention to 2 theories in our textbook: Piaget's theory of cognitive development and Vygotsky's sociocultural theory of cognitive development. Then I like to spend time focusing on one of the theories of attachment. I talk about Harlow in class. I've got a video clip, I think. Maybe not. I might not have a video clip to Harlow's experiments. I could add one to the website, though. But Bowlby's theory of attachment is also described, and you might want to pay some attention to that in our chapter. In class, I usually talk about 1 theory of social development, and that's Erikson's theory of psychosocial development. And then I talk about Kohlberg's theory of moral development, and also contrast it with Gilligan's criticisms of Kohlberg's theory of moral development. Now, many of the theories of development that we talk about are stage theories. For example, Piaget and Erikson, and even Kohlberg has a bit of a stage component to it. And so for those stage theories, you have to pay special attention to the stages, the ages that correspond to the stages, and the milestones that occur during each of those stages. So definitely make sure that you know those, especially for Piaget, which is a 4-stage theory, and Erikson, which actually is an 8-stage theory. On the homework assignment, you get the opportunity to practice. You can choose any 1 theory of development that's described in the chapter and then describe it. I do recommend focusing on one of the stage theories just to give yourself a chance to practice identifying the stages, the ages, and the milestones that happen. But you're free to choose in the assignment any 1 of those theories of development. In our chapter on personality, we focus on primarily the theories of personality. So there are many, many, many theories of personality. I focus on 4 in the class. We'll talk about some of the trait theories or trait perspective of personality that tries to describe people in terms of fundamental traits or characteristics. You'll learn about the big 5 personality traits: openness, conscientiousness, agreeableness, I'm forgetting one, OCEAN, openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism, or emotional stability. I don't like that term, neuroticism. But anyway, so focus on those big 5 personality traits from the trait perspective. Then we also talk about humanistic perspective, which describes how people are fundamentally good, but we need genuineness, acceptance, and empathy to be happy in our lives. So we'll look at the humanistic perspective of personality. Social cognitive theory, we revisit Bandura. So you may remember in Chapter 6 looking at his Bobo doll experiments, and so we'll see how Bandura evolved to describe that into an entire theory of personality development based on observational learning, right? So we are influenced heavily by what we observe, especially among strong role models, but only if we think that that's the appropriate behavior to emulate or to model. And so social cognitive theory of personality. And then, of course, in this chapter, we get to focus on Freud's theory of personality. So we will hear or learn about Freud's concepts of the id, the ego, the superego. And then we will also talk about his psychosexual theory of development. or personality development, it's also another stage theory, and he describes development occurring over 5 stages of psychosexual development: the oral stage, anal stage, phallic stage, latency stage, and genital stage. And so there's ages and milestones that correspond to each of those stages, so be sure to know those as well. From social psychology, we really investigate social behavior and how we act, how individual behavior, because psychology is the scientific study of the individual, but how individual behavior is really impacted by social circumstances. And so we focus on a number of areas in this chapter. We focus on stereotyping and prejudice and discrimination as that affects us in our social interactions. We also have a section in this chapter on obedience and conformity, and so I've got links to several classic video clips of classic studies of Solomon Ash's classic experience on conformity, Milgram's classic obedience experiments, and then the Stanford Prison Experiment. There's a slideshow that you can interact with and has short little video clips demonstrating that classic Stanford Prison Experiment. The homework assignment will ask you, I forgot to mention from our chapter on personality, while the development question is only asking you to pick one theory of development and describe it completely, the question from personality, and remember in the homework you have to answer all 3 questions. The discussion you get to choose one option, but in the homework you have to answer all 3. In the personality question on the homework assignment, it's asking you to take one behavior, in this case generosity, so explain why your best friend is generous according to 3 theories of personality. So use 3 different theories to analyze and explain why your friend may be generous. And then in the question on the homework from the social psychology chapter, using what you've learned about the 3 classic obedience and conformity experiments, Ash, Milgram, and the Zimbardo's Stanford Prison Experiment, explain what we've learned about how susceptible people are to obedience and conformity. There are 3 practice tests, one from Chapter 9 on development, one from Chapter 11 on personality, and one from Chapter 12 on social psych, and then the module test has questions from all 3 chapters. So have fun with this module. I know a lot of students really enjoy this, especially the social psych section, and so have a great week.